Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to run a UX audit for your website. My name's Andy Thorne and I'm a CRO UX consultant at Factory Pattern, and I'm obsessed with making things as easy as possible. UX audit helps you reveal insights that help enhance user experience. Now you might want to do this to make more sales, to get more sign-ups, to get more bookings. Whatever your goal on your website, a UX audit helps to identify improvement opportunities. The UX audit that we've got here focuses on 3 key usability principles to identify improvements on your websites. The 3 usability principles we use are value, friction, and distraction. I'll run through those principles as we go, but what you'll get from that is a structured, objective way to score your website and essentially find places where you can improve that experience. It might be in tiny little areas or bigger areas or complete flows like checkout, but this a UX audit will give you a structured way to identify all of those areas so you know where to start when improving your website. So in this video, I'm going to run through the whole audit. We'll start with a bare bones audit and then run through what a complete audit might look like and the scoring system and key takeaways. We're also going to use a checklist, which is from the UX audit template that we've created. And the link to that is in the video description. So the checklist looks a bit like this. So you've got 3 pages on value, friction, and distraction. And essentially they're prompts and questions to help you think about how you can score each area of your website. So first of all, what you need, so in terms of the tools that you're going to need to do the UX audit, we use Figma, and we've created a template that you can download for free with Figma. Now Figma is a design tool. You don't have to be a design pro or a Figma professional to use this. It's a fairly simple template which I will run through, and like I said, we've got a separate video on how to use that template. So first off, you might go to Figma. The link is in the description of this video. Download the template, and then you can either set up a free account or you can sign into your existing account. And then once you've got that and the template, then you've got everything you need to run the UX audit. And then the next thing you're going to need is to understand what you're going to audit. So first, you might have a website in mind. It might be your own website. It could be a website you really like or really loathe. It could be a client website. So go ahead and get that ready and get the screenshots of that site. So for this audit, we picked the Patagonia website, and in particular this men's micro puff hoodie. And for all the UX audits we do, we focus on the mobile version of the site. Sort of experiences that we design start on mobile. So we always use the mobile version of the site, and the changes there or the things that we notice can apply to desktop too. So it's always a good place to start, but it's harder to apply desktop stuff to mobile. So firstly, we go find the URL that you want. You will know what you're looking for. And then if I want to get the mobile version, you may know this already, but I'll just show you quickly. We go to View, Developer, and Inspect Elements, and then it might not already be selected, so I'll show you anyway. First, if you click this little icon here, you'll get the mobile view. We use the iPhone 12 Pro version because that's quite a common screen resolution. Doesn't really matter which one you use. You can use Samsung, you can use iPhone 14, etc. That's absolutely fine. The point is that we want to get a screenshot of this whole thing. So go to the mobile version of the site, go up to these 3 little dots and capture a full-size screenshot. And that will download a nice screenshot of the full-size screenshot of your website so that you can review the whole thing. And I'm just going to show you what that might look like. And let's just go there. So that might look like this. So some of them are super long, sometimes they're short. It really depends on the website. But you just want to get that whole web page. You can review the whole thing. You might want to get multiple web pages because sometimes our UX audits cover 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. So download that and get that ready for your UX audit so you can insert it into the Figma file. Okay, so I've brought my image into the Figma file here. I'm just going to skip to this page so you can see it. So you can see this nice long image here. Something to watch out for on Figma, it will compress images. So if you put a super huge image in, it might go a bit fuzzy. So sometimes you might just want to chop that image up into smaller files and just bring them in individually. Okay, so what it'll look like to start is like this. So this is your bare bones template, essentially, or your UX audit. So you've got value, friction, and distraction, and I'm going to run through those in a second, and then you've got your screenshot here. So now you're ready to run through the audit. So let's run through the 3 key usability principles, and then we'll jump into the checklist so you can see how to use those to review any given web page. So first of all, value. Are we communicating value to the user? So what you want your website to do, or any area of your site, is to communicate the value of a product or a service or anything really that you're trying to sell to people or get them to buy or get them to sign up to. So value is really important because what we're trying to do is motivate someone to do something. So is what we're showing communicating value to the user? Can we increase that user motivation even more? What are we not telling them? Then we look at friction. What's causing any doubts and hesitations? What makes the process difficult? I think this is one of the most important of the usability principles. And then distraction. What's not helping the user take action? This is all about focus. What's needlessly drawing attention, and what do we want them to focus on? Is there multiple? There's 3 buttons instead of 1 button, and if there's 3 buttons, then we've got to make a decision. If there's 1, they're focused on the thing that we want them to press. So value, friction, and distraction are 3 really important usability principles. There are more, but for the purposes of our UX audits, we just focus on these 3. And then I'm just going to jump over to the checklist so you can see how we can use these principles in action. So if we take a look at value first of all, so are we communicating value to the user? How can we increase user motivation? So run through a few of these things and then look at your website, and then it'll start generating some comments, some ideas. So first of all, clarity of messaging. Look for headlines that clearly convey your offering. Are they direct? Are they persuasive? For example, I think this is really good. If I had a jewelry shop, so like I was selling gold rings and necklaces and things like that, I could say, we sell gold jewelry, or we sell gold rings and necklaces. That's great, it's very clear, but it's not very motivational. There's a big difference there. So you could say something like, elevate your style with our exclusive handcrafted jewelry. So elevate your style is a benefit, and then exclusive and handcrafted are maybe 2 unique selling points that site has got over another. So this will help people to motivate people to take that next step and buy from you. So a next example might be user motivation. So are we leveraging like the range of motivations? So we're looking at necessity. Is this product a necessary product? If it is, then really highlight like why it's necessary. They'll understand anyway, but they'll need it. So it could be, an example might be a drill. So you don't buy a drill because you love drills, you buy a drill because you probably want to screw something in a wall or something like that, so it's necessary. Assess how the motivations are addressed through strategic use of maybe discounts, freebies, compelling content, personalized recommendations, etc. Motivate someone to do something and really sell your product. And then you want to look at things like visual hierarchy. So are we guiding users to the most important, like call to actions first? Sometimes the call to action is so far down a page that people often miss it. And then we look at trust signals. So things like reviews. Reviews are really powerful. Have we got those in there? And also consistent branding is actually another thing that's often missed. If your color scheme is all over the place, or you use multiple colors throughout areas of the site, the perception of your brand starts to degrade in someone's mind, and therefore they'll leave even without using the website. So here you can see how important value is as a principle. So now if we take that and then use that to just look at and review the Patagonia site, I'll show you what I mean. So that's the bare bones one, and then we start here. So this is an example of where I've started to add some comments in. So we look at value, so high quality visual, and I've given that a tick, and I'll go through the tick and the crosses in a sec. So high quality visual, by the way, if all of these comments are color coded, so value is yellow, and then a value comment is yellow, and that just makes it really quick to reference back. Green is friction, and blue is distraction. And so if we're looking at value, for example, a high quality visual is really good in pushing the value of the product. If I can see that this is a really good picture, they've taken care over how they positioned it and how they've cut it out and how they've taken the photo, the lighting's really good, and it's a professional shot, then the value is high and I can see it's a high quality product, then immediately I'll stick around because I've started to understand how good this product is. So we've marked that as good because it's got a high quality visual. And then in each of these comments that we put in, by default, we put further details breaking down the guidance regardless whether it adheres or violates. So basically what that means is you put a description in here. So first of all, summarize the point with a title. So say high quality visual. That can be enough. You can just delete that. That might be enough as a note for you. And then you can explain that to them. But it's good to give it some context. So if I skip to the final one here, I've actually moved over to this side. So immediately presents the product with a high quality image. So we want to just put that in there. And that just gives it some more context. So if you're not around to explain this and you just want to hand this off to someone else, then giving it that context with the description is super, super helpful. And then let's just skip back to the checklist and we can start looking at friction. So we want to identify any areas causing any doubts and hesitations. So page speed is the first thing. And I'll go through that in a sec. So we want to record how fast or how slow the page speed loads, because if it loads under 3 seconds, then people are just going to drop off before they even get into using the website. So that's the first thing you want to look at. And then you want to look at things like carousels. Is there auto-rotating carousels, button and link clarity, all sorts of things in here. And if we just skip back to the Patagonia example, we've got this point of friction. So it's a hidden search. So there's a little search icon here, which is great because that means I can find the search like reasonably easily. But it's bad because I've got to click that search icon and then I've got to click again into the search box and type my search. So that's quite a drawn out process. And I'm actually just going to show you an example of that on the website. So let's go here. So I've got to click that and then I get the search box. So what am I looking for? And also I can see why they've maybe put that black overlay over the site, but that might not help me because I might forget what I was even looking at. So regardless of that, I might look for blue t-shirt. But the point is that I've got to close. That's really annoying because that's not even closing. And I think I've broken the website. Okay, so I'm going to refresh it. Right. So another point of friction. And actually, this is a good point. So it's great to take the screenshot and look, but you've still got to use the website when reviewing it, just so you can check those things too. Because actually now I might add to that search, because if you saw what happened there, when I tried to close that box, it actually clicked the link to go to that t-shirt in the search results. So if I go here and close that, it worked. But if I just type in t-shirt again and try and close that worked that time. And you can mention that, and that's the kind of added value of doing a UX audit, because you're trying to figure out what the experience is like, not just a one-off section. Anyway, I'm going off point a little bit. So making the search box open by default encourages more use. Search is really, really important, especially on mobile, when navigation's kind of hidden, which is fine. It's hidden because you don't want too much clutter in the screen, but search is used a lot on mobile, and so you want to encourage that use. You don't want people having to click twice just to get into a search. And so I might mention that there in this audit too, or I might mention it in the key takeaways, the fact that when I tried to close it, it took me to the search results anyway. Okay, and now we get on to distractions. So let's go to the distraction checklist. So with distraction, we're finding out what's not helping the user take action. So is anything drawing attention that we kind of don't want users looking at too much, or actually, more importantly, we want them to look at something else first and not get distracted by that. So what do we want them to focus on? So let's look at eliminating unnecessary content. So focus on what's important, streamlining your site, making it easier, removing content that doesn't add value. It's all easy to do because you've got a screen that you can keep extending, and we can keep adding content. But if you ram too much in there, or if it's too close together, then it starts to all become unnecessary and unclear. And we want to minimize interruptions. So pop-ups is a big problem. More often than not, you'll load up, especially with e-commerce sites, load up a page, within 3 seconds a pop-up comes up and says, oh, get 20% off. You're trying to close it because you actually want to look at what you're focused on rather than the pop-up getting in your way. So really important to minimize those interruptions. And there's all sorts of other points here. And I'm just going to skip back to the UX audit example. And we've actually given this a tick on this point of clear navigation. So this breadcrumb trail here, I'm just going to move this comment out of the way so you can see men's new arrivals. Now, why that's important is because I might have landed on this page from a Google search. I might not have come from the home page, gone to the navigation and found this. I might have come straight from a Google search and landed on this page. And if I'm unsure about where I am, then this is just going to help me, men's new arrivals. It's not going to distract me too much and make me use it, but it just gives me an idea of where I'm at so that it focuses me on what I need to do next. So this is quite a good example of where you don't want to overdo it with loads of navigation, but we would just want to focus the navigation to tell people where they're at. So the breadcrumbs help users understand where they are, and that's a really good thing. So that's an example of how to use that checklist. There are many more questions that you might want to ask, but they're just a few prompts to help you. And so how to add a comment. So we've got our screenshot set up. We've already got 3 comments. Yours will look like this, so it's bare bones. First of all, we do that page speed check. So you want to go to Page Speed Insights, Google's tool, or GT Metrics, and I'll show you that in a sec. Get the page speed and score and enter them up there. Okay, so I'm at pagespeed.web.dev, which is Google's page speed insights tool, and it helps you analyze the page speed and also some user experience metrics of any given website. So go back to the Patagonia site example here, copy that and paste it in there and hit analyze. It'll take a few seconds. Okay, so the analysis is done with Page Speed Insights. I've also run one on GT Metrics, so you can take a look at that too. I find GT Metrics a little bit easier to use. It does use Google's Lighthouse tool, the Page Speed tool, to just fill in all the data. But if we just take a look at Page Speed, lots of numbers on this page, but what we're interested in is this number here, 27. So copy 27, go back into Figma, and that's the score out of 100. So we pop that in there. So 27 out of 100. And we also look at the color. So the color red immediately tells us that that's a bad thing. So let's just color this red. I'm just going to bring in my design tools and then just fill that red. So that just immediately tells us, gives us a bit more context on what that means. And then in terms of the timing, so there's lots of different timings. You'll see 1.7 seconds, 0.9, etc., etc. We go for the speed index. That's how long the total time that the page takes to load, so 12.3 seconds. Ideally, you want to be under 3 seconds, so we fill this in as well. Keep the S on there because that's just helpful for context again, and make it red. So when I checked this first time, it was 1.2 seconds. So it's worth running it a couple of times just to get an average, but that immediately tells us there's some issue on the site. It could be the image sizes, it could be something loading randomly somewhere. But that, if I was going to prioritize anything before even getting into this, it would be speeding up the page. And if we just take a quick look in GT Metrics, you can see that they give it a grade, so it's like a D, and just a bit more context there. But as I go down the page, you'll see that this says fully loaded time 9.4 seconds. They do argue with each other a little bit, so you might just want to find an average between the tools. But regardless, they're 2 really good free tools that you can use and give you a good idea of the page speed and performance. So I've explained a little bit about how we comment on things using those 3 core UX principles, and now I'm just going to explain how you create one. So you can do it one or two ways. You can either just copy this and then paste, and that will just paste it into place. And then you can change it over here. So you'll need your design, what do they call it? Show hide UI, which is your user interface. And you can change it here. So this is what's known as a component. So we've got a component library, and these are like pre-built little elements that we've got to just make it super quick to either mark it as adhered to or violated. So what we want to do, so we're looking at friction, for example. Actually, tell you what we will do is we just get rid of this one. So I want to talk about that search, and I know that they violated that UX principle of friction. So if I just duplicate this, copy that, and then paste, so hit Command V, bring that up to the place that you're talking about, and that's the point in these. They're a bit like sticking post-its on things. So sometimes you'll have a lot, so it might end up looking like this, and sometimes they get a bit bunched up. So bring it as close to the point that you're talking about, just to make it quicker to read and really contextual. So this is distraction because it's blue, so I want to make it green. So if I go hit this little drop down here, and then I make that green, and you can see that this has got a tick, and it's the tick's on the left hand side. We want the tick on the right hand side. Just going to do that. Okay, and then so you've got, that's the component, and then you've got a variation of this component. And we are, so in this case, because we're telling Patagonia off for a hidden search thingy, then they violated that UX principle. So then it's violated, violated, right, because the little thing is on the right hand side. So I'll pop that in here, and then I might say, what might I say? So search hidden by default. Okay, and don't worry too much about the numbering. First of all, we'll go through that in a second. Just get the comment in there. Then we just want to give it some context. It's best practice to always display the search to ensure it's available and ready to use with minimal, I can't spell, interaction. There we go. So now I can talk about that to someone and say, right, this is the thing I've noticed, what we're going to do about it. And that just provokes that conversation, just helps you present it in a way that makes sense to people. So we're not trying to confuse them with UX principles. We're just using UX principles, and then we'll tell them what's wrong with the site or what's right with the site. And then if I wanted to, for example, move this one, so this is a value comment, and you can see in this over here, I've moved it over to the left because they're all getting bunched up. I move it over to here, and then I just switch it back, and it's adhered, so value adhered right. And then I pop that in there, and I just try and line up. I'm just going to zoom in a minute. And I just try and line that up with that because I'm super particular about making these as neat as possible. And so I get that in there and move that there. And then if I want to add a new comment, I can just copy one of these, paste it, and I go, right, I want to talk about, I don't know, this gallery numbering now. And I can see that's such good things. It lets me know what to expect and how many images are in this gallery. And it pushes me to click that little arrow to see more images, so that's a good thing, but could they have thumbnails to show me what to expect, because I don't know whether they're videos or images and what it's actually going to show me. So then you could argue that it's not adhered to, and so then you'll flick that, and it might be a point of, so if we're talking about navigation and making things difficult, we're talking about friction. So then I want to change this to a friction comment, go here, pop that close to there, and then friction violated left. Okay, so this is the bad thing now. Sometimes it's not like massively bad, sometimes it's kind of good and bad, so then I still mark it with the violated just so that I can say it's good but it could be better. So then I'm just going to copy what I've written here because there's no point in rewriting that. So I've said minimal gallery navigation, because the only navigation I've got is the numbers and the right and left arrows. Paste that in there. And then what did I say? The right left arrows are useful controls and numbers are helpful. However, there's no thumbnails or dots to visually indicate additional images. And I'm going to add that, or let users know what to expect. There we go. And like I said, don't worry about the number for now. So what you're going to do is start from the top, work your way down, just keep banging in the comments. If you want to, keep a separate document for all the comments, and as you're thinking about them, we'll write them down on a notepad and then add them in. But this should make it nice and quick to add those comments, and then once you've been through them, check that you've got your ticks and your crosses the right way around and that it's adhered to or violated against. And then you'll end up with something like this. So like I said before, when we checked the page score, it was actually 1.4 seconds. It's a 90 out of 100. So something's gone wrong with the page speed in the time that we've checked this. So this is what a final UX audit might look like of one page. So we've got all of our comments down here. They go from top to bottom. There's always sort of slightly less towards the bottom, because usually the top's the most important area, but it's still worth going through it. And also sometimes issues repeat themselves. So if you said it once, you can just say, oh, it's happening here as well. And you don't need to comment on that, because you don't want to fill the thing with too many comments. So this is what it's going to look like. And then once we've got all the comments in, that's when I start numbering them, because I might move them up and down. And I start at the top. So if I'm looking at friction, for example, and I've got this confusing drop down, then that's right at the top. That starts with 2.1. You can start with 2.0 if you want to. I start with 2.1. It doesn't really matter. The point is that you've got a reference, a number reference. You can quickly go back to this and go, oh yeah, no, that was 2.3, and that meant that we've got clear accessible product labeling, which is great. Okay, so then you put your numbers in, so top to bottom. And then what you do is take the title. So if I'm just going to get rid of this one a minute. Take the title of each comment and pop it in here. So if I just go copy that, or I can just type it out again. So 2.1, confusing drop down. That might not make sense out of context. So if I was just looking at that, then I might think, what does that mean? But the point is that you've got all of the highlights on the left here, and then you can just refer to them here for extra context. So that's all it's for. It's just for quick reference. So we've got all of that, and that's great. It's ready to go. You could just show someone this and walk through it and explain it, and that would give them all of the comments they need to start looking for opportunities to improve the site. So in terms of key takeaways, or actually maybe a better way of putting this is the analysis and the findings and the next steps. You want to give it a score, and your key takeaways are the key points. So first of all, you don't want to just repeat everything that's on this page and just dump it into here, because that's not quick to read. What you want to do is summarize the points here. So this is quick to read, and more importantly, is the kind of priority areas you want to look at, because this gives you so say for example, a client was looking at this, or a manager or stakeholder, they could look at this page and understand that there's opportunities for improvement, and then they could look at the detail if they wanted to. The detail really is so that you can start kind of thinking about, giving you kind of ways to think about how you can improve the experience. But the key takeaways is this is what we've noticed. It might be on one page, it might be for multiple pages, and these are the things we really need to focus on, and there's the detail in the UX audits of each page. So like I said previously, sometimes you might be reviewing a whole checkout experience, but you still want to summarize the points from all of them within here, and then you want to score it. So in the how to use the UX audit template, I've got through, there's an example of how to score it, but I'm just going to run through that here. So if we take a look at each of these comments, you've got value 5 out of 5, you've got friction 3 out of 5. Now there's not 5 comments, so we've got to do a little bit of maths, but it's not too difficult, so get ready. So we've got, let's just count them. And also this is a good reason to have these listed down here, so you haven't got to count all of these comments throughout the UX audit, especially when they're super long. So if we look at friction, you got 1, 2, you got 9 points. Okay, so 9 points, and then what you want to do out of those 9 is count how many of those points are good and how many are bad, or just go for the bad ones. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5 out of 9 are bad. So that's about kind of 50%, just over 50%. So in terms of a score out of 5 for friction, that would be 3 out of 5. And you do that for the rest. You do that for distraction, and you do that for value too, and give it a score. And then once you've got that score, you average it. So you'd go, so I'm going to get my little calculator up. So you go 5 plus 3, so it's that score there, plus 4 equals 12. Divide that by 3 to get your average, which is 4. And for some reason, I've given this 3.5 out of 5, but that could have come from a previous audit. So I'm going to go 4 in there. So that's 4 out of 5, so that's pretty good. And then this little red square here, just move it up to 4. If you did have 3.5, and I think that's why we did have 3.5 in there, then you reduce the width of that square to make it half, but this is 4 out of 5, and leave that one empty. So that gives you a quick idea of the total score out of 5. This gives you more context. So this is a radar chart. So tiny little bit more complex to use, but really, really valuable. So I'm just going to reset it so you can see what it looks like from the start. So we start the triangle there, and this should all be locked by default, and this little triangle is the only one you can move. So you kind of just click off it so you can see from the start. So you click, double click it, and then you can get the little points. And if we've got a 5 out of 5 for value, let's go up here, then what we do is drag that all the way up to the value point. Just going to zoom right in. Doesn't have to be super accurate, but just land it on there so you know. So the small triangle is 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. The bigger the triangle, the better the experience. The smaller the triangle, the worse the experience. But more importantly, you can focus on what you need to improve first. So for this, for example, I don't really need to look for any points of motivation. That's kind of dealt with. Maybe at a later stage, I could review it again and do that. But I've noticed that friction has got a 3 out of 5. So I'm just going to, and I've noticed that because I know that's in the audit, but I've also going to notice it because I put it in the radar chart. So we got friction there, and then we've got distraction. Going to move that to 4 out of 5. So by looking at this chart, your biggest problem is friction because that's the smallest point, or that's the point nearest to the center. So in terms of prioritizing the next actions, you want to go friction first, then distraction, and then value if you need to. And then over here, this is a summarized list of the key takeaways, and this summarizes all of the points. So what I do there to get that is I use ChatGPT, or you can use a similar AI tool. So I take all of these comments and the titles, so I copy all those, copy that, and then I put them in, and then I ask it to give me kind of 3 or 4 points on key takeaways, and I let it know this is a UX audit. So I'm going to run that now, and I'll show you the results. Okay, so I've set up ChatGPT, and I'm just going to show you what I'm doing here. So I'm copying the title first, popping into ChatGPT, and then the description, copy that, copy, so right click and copy, Command V to paste it in there. At the top here, I've said I'm running a UX audit and have noted areas for improvement. Can you give me 3 to 4 takeaways? I'm just going to do it on these 3 points, but what you'll need to do is paste all of those points into ChatGPT. Actually, I'm going to put a few more so it can give you some key takeaways. Okay, so I've put a few more in, and now if I just hit go on that one, then it's just going to give me, I think it's given me 4. So enhance drop-down clarity, improve image navigation, streamline price accessibility, and focus on clear context and benefits. And it's got that from that. And now I could maybe say shorten it because we want to keep it as concise as possible. So they're my key takeaways from all of those points there. It's just a quicker way to do it. You can do it manually if you want to, but that just makes it quicker. And then once I've got that, I copy all of that and I pop that into my key takeaways here. And that's it, you're ready to go. So you've got all of the takeaways, you've got all of the points to refer back to. And once you've got an audit, that's when you can start making informed decisions on how to improve your UX on your site. So that's it. So you can get started today. So head to the links in the video and you'll see a link to the blog post that talks about this UX audit and a way to download the template. It's also available on the Figma community. So yeah, get going with your UX audits. Use those 3 key usability principles to make your audits as objective and as actionable as possible. Take away all that subjectivity like, oh, I don't like those colors, and turn things into actionable comments, and you'll start improving the user experience of your website. Good luck.